Generate is supporting my vision to improve the financial literacy of 100,000 Kiwis by sponsoring Keep the Change. Cheers, Generate. Head to generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change to find out more. Welcome in. You are listening to another episode of the Keep the Change podcast, one of the most rated podcasts in New Zealand. It only happens if you leave a rating, so please leave a 5-star review. If you're watching and listening over on YouTube, please leave a comment so we can see that you're doing that too. Without further ado, we've got Mikey in the studio, and today we're going to be talking about listening versus hearing what you want to hear.
Whoa.
I'm scared.
Because you get to see it firsthand a lot.
Yeah.
Listening's an interesting one, man. I think it's actually a skill, eh?
It definitely is.
And you can train yourself, and I think it's a skill that gives you a massive advantage. So, yeah, I came up with it because of the frustration we have sometimes with some emails or comments and things that we get. And
questions.
We didn't say that.
Yeah.
It's taken out of context, or, social media is a beautiful place for everything to be taken out of context, right? But I think just in general, like day-to-day life, customer service and all of these little things, increasing your ability to listen is so crucial. And I think it's a very helpful tool for... It's funny, when you start thinking about it and then going down like rabbit holes like I do in my head, I'm like, oh, this is better for like relationships, talking with your friends, looking after customers, talking with the staff, talking everything.
Yeah.
So I think versus hearing what you want to hear, because our brain loves to go like that sentence out of that paragraph, what an asshole. Or it shouldn't be like that, the system's fucked. And I think it's crucial, and I think we should all practice listening. Sounds crazy, eh?
Yeah, I think we consume so much now, but we've gone so hard. Podcasts long form now, but the content that really goes is short form, snappy, something, right?
Summarized, or something clipped out of something, and
Yeah.
or other people clipping your stuff and then
Taking it out of context.
So you don't have control over like what, might have cut off the first part of the sentence and the last part or whatever, and it takes the middle out and it sounds the opposite of what you're trying to say.
Yeah. This is I probably shouldn't even use this as an example, but I think part of it is because we're so massive in the media on sound bites, and then social media's gone soundbitey as well, of like, let's get that one sentence, and it gets taken out of context, but that's the piece that we see. And David Seymour at the moment is, I don't know enough about this, so please do not have a crack at me, but there's something going on with the school lunches, right? And so I got in an Uber, and this lady said to me, David Seymour, he's going after this disabled people. He's going after the school lunches, what an asshole, and all this stuff. And I was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. And I thought, I haven't looked into this enough to know, but I'm smart enough to know there's got to be more context to this. It's not like David Seymour just wakes up one day, is like, right, no one's getting food or whatever, and the disabled, whatever is happening over that space too. Surely not. But maybe I'm wrong. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. But then I saw him get asked about it and the school lunches, and he said, all I'm saying is that we've been doing this for some time, but we haven't actually reviewed how efficient it is, so I'm keen to do that. And I thought, wow, that's way different to what I'm hearing in an Uber and what I'm hearing in different places. So I don't know what he actually wants to do or what will happen, but I'm trying to teach myself to be way more curious, because I know that the world is increasingly becoming short form, sound bites, take it out of context, that sells, headlines.
AI is going to make it even worse, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild how much we've trained ourselves to have attention for 3 seconds.
I think that because there's so much division at the moment between political parties and just the way that things are economically, and things are quite hard for a lot of people, it's easier to just hear something and go, that's the conclusion, rather than trying to hear people for their position. I was following an American influencer and they've got a lot of followers,
Mm.
TV show, all sorts. And I've never seen them talk about politics. And then all of a sudden on their story, they had their views massively about Trump, and they were negative. And I thought, holy, this person is going to just get destroyed in their DMs. They had their DMs open.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow. But for me, I'm like, well, at least they are happy to voice their opinion. But
Yeah.
also, even if you don't like, if you say you do like Trump and you see that stuff, and I'm not close enough to American politics, but you probably, we're getting trained like not to be able to hear that person. That person being the influencer of their thoughts, and because we're just so like, no, I'm on this side.
Mm.
And I think I kind of cottoned on to this happening when I started learning from Ray Dalio about division and taking a side. And I kind of thought, oh, that doesn't look overly helpful. I wonder if I could sort of, as I always talk about, like look down and just try and see where they're coming from, because I can see where that person's coming from in the Uber about the lunches. If what they're reading is, David Seymour's going to take the lunches away and he's, going to make things harder for disabled people. You're like, what the fuck? Why? Hang on.
Yeah.
But then trying to understand, there has to be a bit more to that then. And I've tried to increasingly become more curious, or just go, you know what, like I'm not going to take that one soundbite or person's opinion in the Uber, for instance, as what's actually happening.
Yeah. It's interesting because we also have this automatic response mechanism bolted into us to attack the person and not the problem, which I think's like a massive issue when it comes to fixing things that are broken, or discussing why they might not be broken. It's like, did you get the sense from the Uber person that really they just didn't like David Seymour?
A little bit,
probably, right? Instead of like the problem at hand, it sounds like wasn't even really discussed and there wasn't a solution offered up, right? And I think if we can listen, like if that person listened to Seymour, and I've got no fucking idea what you're talking about, by the way.
Yeah, it's a shit example. Yeah. I'm like, damn it came to my brain.
But if you listen to it and then thought about it, and then you could think, regardless of who it is, whether it's Seymour or any politician, and then think, okay, there's this problem, what's the solution? If everyone did that, the whole world would be processed in the mind of like an engineer and would fix a whole lot of problems.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it comes from listening, right? And not letting an emotion take over before you have finished listening. And like, I can't remember what the comment was, but there was a video that you shared of me talking, and someone commented and you're like, sorry, where did he say that, bro?
Yeah.
That was the one that I was like, we need to do a pod on this.
Yeah.
Because like, it was something that I definitely did not say in the video that person was commenting on, right?
Yes. But they're hearing what they want to hear, or they're seeing what their worldview is.
Exactly. And we all have biases, and we all have different ways of thinking, and we jump to conclusions automatically all the time, and it's definitely a human fault. Like, we are at the top of the food chain, but we do have faults still, unfortunately. And I think it doesn't help us get any better when we act like that. I think it is very much an advantage if you're capable of listening, and like what you just said before, being smart enough to recognize that there might be more to something. Like, it really is, you listen, you can take in the information, and don't react until you actually know. And the other person who is saying the thing or sharing the video or the clip that's out there will have their own biases and stuff as well. But if there's a problem, generally speaking, there's lots of problems that any different thinking humans can all agree on. And then we all get caught up in like talking about the person and the problem with the person that did it instead of the solution to fix it. Yeah. It's hilarious. It's like, I'm like, the politicians want you to do this, you idiots. They want you fighting over each other. They don't want you to talk about, knowing about inflation and like how the Reserve Bank works and shit. So it's a funny one. And I think stripping it back to basics, it's like if you catch yourself getting fired up on the internet and commenting and not even making comments like that one that aren't even related to what we said or whatever.
Yeah.
If you put that into like your day-to-day life, you're not going to get very far. Like if you run a shop and it's a clothes shop that sells t-shirts and someone comes in and says, do you have a pink t-shirt? And you just say, no, we don't sell pants here. That's effectively what you're doing. Like, what? You're just not listening to what the question was.
Yeah.
Or what the statement was. And if you do, and you can listen and then have an actual intellectual conversation about it, massive win.
Getting in the KiwiSaver fund that suits you and your situation is key to making sure you're maximizing your investment. Generate are an award-winning KiwiSaver provider with a track record of long-term performance, and they can help you do exactly this. Their advisors can meet with you to talk about all your options when it comes to KiwiSaver to help you decide what's best for you. Too many people never get KiwiSaver advice, but not you. Go to generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change to book a no-obligation chat with a Generate advisor. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns. One thing that I reckon I've gotten more comfortable doing is when I'm writing content, explicitly saying in there, I'm not saying, because I know that when I post content that people will assume what they want to hear. As an example, I did some content recently about if I was struggling financially and I worked in a 9-to-5, I would look at my 104 days and know that that's a lever I could pull. Now, in there, I also put, I'm not saying I want this to be the solution and you should work every day, but still... But if I don't put that, I'm not saying, I get that, oh, what, you're saying work every weekend. What about your family? Oh, you'll regret this when you're older. All this shit. And then people are like, yeah, like, because they want to think like that. I'm just looking at it going, well, if I had some extra days that I could make some money in, then that's an option that I do have. But often we'll hear, I've heard from someone like, oh, you guys are just, work hard and work every day and work 7 days a week and that's how you get ahead. I'm like, no, like we talk about seasons. We talk about that could work for a while.
Yeah.
But people, that's a good example of people hearing what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Because I think they actually don't want to hear the reality of it because they don't want that to be a solution. So they don't want to have to work on a weekend or to do a Saturday or to do a Sunday. So when you talk about great way to get ahead is working on your weekends, so like, oh, what an idiot. Like,
the amount of times I've been asked, like, why does Luke hate Bitcoin and property? I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, he doesn't hate anything. Nothing.
Mate, here's my notes here. I hate property in quotations. Yeah. Yes. I don't know how many times I can explain that I don't.
If you want to do property, go for it.
Yeah. I feel like I say that so many times. I'm bored of saying it. Maybe I should just say.
What we do talk about is actually doing the numbers.
Yeah.
And making sure, do you realize this payment is like 30 years or is this the right time? Make sure you actually think about it. Don't get caught up in the FOMO of the 2021 market and make decisions based on your personal position, not what society wants you to do.
Yeah.
And like, there's 500 episodes, 1 million downloads, like the fucking list goes on. The DMs, the comments, the Instagram posts. Like, you've been here for a long time saying that. It's still like, why does Luke hate property so much?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, what's your issue with property? Like, oh man.
Do it if you want, man.
Yeah.
Like, go hard. Someone needs to be a landlord. Like, someone needs to buy the house. Like, otherwise BlackRock's going to buy them all. So
yes. Well, yeah, it's funny. I actually, I've got that for an example in something else. But yeah, on the property thing, just because you've raised it, I think that's a good example of this, where people hear houses double every 10 years. I heard that so often and then would look at graphs and I'm like, oh, they do.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's 7. I'm like, but that shit house is depreciated and is now worth more. How did it go up in value? I'm like, that's bizarre. I need to figure this out. I need to figure out what's actually happening. So then I started asking people, how come that happens? Not just, you need to own a property because it will double in 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, now I need to figure out how come that's happening. And I'm going to go and ask some people who don't just say, well, they go up every 10 years. So why aren't you buying one? I'm like, I want to understand what's happening underneath this. But you actually have to listen to those people to find out what that could be.
Yeah. And I think it's very healthy to stay curious enough to question why on lots of things, eh? And we've definitely been trained out of it with the 50-year recency bias curve of the property market, because we're like, oh, it just always goes up.
Yep.
But like, actually ask yourself, and it's the same, we've talked about it on pods before, like, how come this house is exactly the same? In fact, its conditions got worse and it's worth more?
Yes.
That doesn't make sense. There's a whole, I mean, it comes back to the money. But, you know, hearing what you want to hear, it is a massive thing. And if you try and explain to people like that, I will get, whenever I put something up on my Instagram that's cheeky about it, like the graph of the total money supply and stuff that correlates with house prices and then interest rates, and they're like perfect crossover. You know, I get all the messages being like, you know, land scarce. And I'm like, yes, this is what I'm saying. Like, there is a store of value there, but it's not the graph. Like, there's like a property clock. It's like every 10 years, it's like I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to understand the other part of it. It's not like, you don't just go back to hear what you want to hear, which is every 10 years. You know, you want to listen to the information, and then you can go and find out for yourself. Like I did. I work in the industry where it relies on it, but I still understand it, and I'm we're getting attacked.
I got fly in here.
Yeah, I got attacked by it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's real beneficial, man, because it doesn't stop me, knowing about that doesn't stop me from being a mortgage broker or being a good one. In fact, it's just like more information that I can share with people, and they appreciate that I've got skill and knowledge in the field.
Yeah.
And all I did is like ask how, and I listened to one view, which is like the property clock or doubles every 10 years. And then I listened to some other views about, because I asked why. This is so good. You're just like,
I think I got it.
Oh, nice.
No, I didn't.
Did?
No.
Oh, I can see it.
All right. It's been a day, mate. It's been a day.
It has. We have been interrupted in here. Good, eh?
Yeah. Can you help me understand this, mate? Because so I hear you'll own nothing and be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that houses are unaffordable. I hear that Gen Y don't want to buy houses. I hear Gen rent because it's too unaffordable to buy houses. How are houses, if that's the data, how are houses going to keep their value if there's not going to be a buyer? So when the boomers go to sell, and if that's apparently what you believe, that BlackRock are going to buy it all, etc., are BlackRock going to pay a high price to a boomer because they believe housing doubles every 10 years, so therefore you should pay me more? Or are BlackRock going to go, like, if that's what's going to happen, are BlackRock going to go, well, fuck off, Gen Y can't buy it, Luke doesn't want to buy it because he loves renting too much, he's generation rent, so your only option is to sell to me, we're not paying you what you want for it.
Yeah.
I can't reconcile those two things. I'm confused. I'm stuck there at the moment.
It's holy shit.
Sorry,
how
is
much
that
time
another
have we got?
Yeah. But I guess this highlights, do people think like that?
No.
Okay.
No.
So something's probably a bit wrong.
You need it will double every 10 years.
That's
enough.
Yeah, that's where they stay. Because I go into the future and I'm like, okay, shit. If we're not creating the next buyer, what's going to happen with the properties? Like, who's going to buy them? Because someone still has to own shit, whether it's BlackRock or the next person. Or does maybe the boomer just go, oh shit, no one can afford this, because this is what I'm reading online, that's unaffordable and it can't be done, and that the next generation coming through aren't going to buy these properties. Well, do they then just leave it to charity? Do they leave it to their
Some
kids?
will.
Yeah, do they leave it to the millennial? Like, I don't know. Like, there has to eventually, the person with the house has to sell it, and there has to be a buyer.
With the 20 houses, you mean?
What's that?
With the 20 houses, not the one.
No, of course. Yeah. But there has to be a buyer and a seller, and that then creates the price. And if the buyer's not there, how does housing stay up in value? I just never hear anyone having this conversation.
The word value in housing is a funny one, right? Like,
correct.
But yeah, we will print.
Okay.
Have no fear. The printer is here.
Okay.
The boomers need to be paid out in size, and that will not happen at 7% interest rates.
Maybe if someone's listening, they could email and let me know, how does that work? If there's a generation that don't want to buy, and they're like, fuck that, we're not living our lives working and paying the bank. And also to them, where are they going to live? I don't know. It's confusing.
Michael Saylor might be able to buy New Zealand.
Oh, true, with all this Bitcoin.
So maybe there's a money change in the future. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. So just to wrap that bit up, I don't hate property. Again, a reminder. I'm keen on people achieving what it is that they want in their life. I think maybe I need to do a better example as well. If you went from being in negative equity to having $1 million of equity and you don't own property, you might have something within yourself to know, like, oh yeah, fuck, I don't need to be so obsessed with property.
It's not the only vehicle yet. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, it's not the only vehicle.
I got it.
Well done, mate.
Yeah.
A round of applause over there. So yeah, but that's my individual journey. However, a part of where that comes from is that this is, I think, a really good example. I sat with a mentor, and he a lot further down the path than and I'm just wanting to know about what stocks to invest in and a bit of main freight and all of this, and he's just looking at me like, what are you talking about, mate? You're in your 20s at this stage.
Go and build it first, you plonker.
Exactly. And he basically just let me talk, and he listened, and I've said this a number of times, but it's basically like, why do you keep asking me about investing in main freight for a 5% return? Why don't you just invest the same time, money, and effort into yourself and get a 50 to a 500% return? And I left there thinking, holy shit. Like, I could have been like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Fucking main freight are going to kill it. And if I just, ignored that basically, but I really listened, and I didn't want to hear that. Like, that's not what I wanted to hear from this dude. I wanted to be told, like, yeah, mate, that's it. Just put your paycheck aside and get main freight. Here's a list of 6 ones over here. And he's, looking at me going, mate, you're wasting your potential, investing yourself. And so when I learned that concept, that has been where a lot of growth has come from for me in my life, to where I will, I'll get close to the 31st of March and I'm like, fuck, what can I spend on marketing? Like, what, what direction can I push this money into? Because he taught me to invest in myself and invest in then the things that I was doing, and I will generate more of a return from those. But I had to really listen to what he was saying to get that. Then I had to trust him, and I had to go and do a bit of it. And then I saw it happening, and now I can see, like, oh, wow.
I wonder what that barrier is too, because I went through a similar thing. It's like, I remember reading the price of not knowing how to make $1 million per year is $999,999. Basically, it's like, that's how much you should spend on getting to $1 million, right? And like, I think about that. If I told my 20-year-old self that, I'd be like, fuck, where's the pub, mate? Like, what are you on about? But now I get to see how that works, because I cross like a boundary, and I'm capable of listening now. And I'm capable of actually understanding and actually hearing what that means. And it's true, right? Like, if I'm like, I'll give you $1 million every year for the rest of your life, will you go find me 950 grand?
Easy.
Like, it's fucking A.
Yeah.
Right? Let's roll. And then I'm like, well, the 950 is just going to go into courses and a bit of education about learning how you can do that. And it's like, fucking bang.
Yeah.
Let's spin this shit up and get rolling. But most people are hearing like $1 million, rich arsehole. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I would have like blocked out what the meaning behind it is and listening to that person explaining how that works. And I think,
or $1 million isn't much money anymore. Why don't you have it? Where is it?
Yeah.
Can
you must have 10, eh?
Yeah. Can I come around?
Yeah. So I think being able to control your emotional reaction to things and just listen, extremely helpful skill. and then asking why. And then if it's something that doesn't benefit you, move on.
Yeah.
I found that with the news. I found that with all the apps. I used to love reading the Herald every day. I used to and then, the pandemic came along and then they're jamming it down my throat. I was like, fuck this, I'm out.
Turn it off.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't need that anymore. And it's the best thing I ever did. And I only listen to, I don't care for the state. I've elevated enough personally to be like, they can do what they do, and there'll always be people that love either side of it, but I need to do what I do, and I'll listen to people that can help me do what I want to do, and listen carefully. Every now and then I want to listen to another side of something.
Yeah.
And make sure that I'm not overly biased, but actually listening instead of just hearing what I want to hear. And I think, I've been caught saying this a few times recently, but the combo of doing that and a few other things, like my life has never been better, man. And I think it actually is a part of this, and I think a lot of people don't listen. And I think when you're to have any form of success in your life and a good time, you do want to listen and you do want to care, and then you want to decide whether you retain that information, be curious about it, ask more questions about it, or move on to the next thing, rather than being like, Luke's an arsehole, he hates houses.
Yes.
Like, that is not the reaction.
It's the anti-property guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go listen to the property podcast instead. I'm fucking going to teach you how to get a deposit.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So you can achieve it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I really do think that we do get like this emotional reaction to these things. And we see it a lot. But I also have learned to like self-censor a little bit, because sometimes I'll see a comment on a video that I've put out or a video that someone else puts out, and my instant reaction in my head is like, what everyone else's instant reaction is, and I have to be like, hang on,
if everyone's doing that,
like, should I listen to this again carefully, and then should I even comment, or is it a waste of my time?
Yeah.
Or I need to actually understand this person's position, or reach out, or whatever it is, So very, very beneficial in the long run if you can do it. And it's like as simple as like, you're in a t-shirt store, you listen to the person that comes in, what they ask for. It's like almost a level of customer service for your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The issue with, a tricky thing for all of us is that it's so easy to surround ourselves now with the information we want to hear.
100%.
Social media, I like that, I'll follow them.
Yeah.
Perfect. Then you're going to get more of that. I like the way that they think. Okay. The algorithm, it'll push stuff to you.
Yeah.
That's probably in line with what you think.
Yeah.
And, if I do exactly what you're saying. At the moment, I'm consuming some content around not growing and about like that conflict with some of the ways that I think about things. Because I'm like, okay, where is this person coming from? And I'm not just going to dismiss it. I get very curious about it and think, okay, well, that's how they want to live and that's the way that they want to do things, then that's sweet as well. And then you learn to just become a bit more comfortable with it. But I do think you have to be really careful with what info you surround yourself, especially because I think that's the next tier. That's like your life's going good, and then you're like, I'm gonna challenge some of my views of the world and the way that I do things, and But I think a lot of us, we get stuck in, I'm gonna find the information to just surround myself with that confirms why things aren't happening well for me at the moment. I have to use buy now, pay later. I have to have a credit card. It's hard to get ahead here. I heard that a lot, not just recently, years ago.
Yeah.
And I would listen to that and go, fuck, I've heard that too many times. I need to understand what that means. And then I would start, as an example, I would hear these things and I would say to people, what do you mean by getting ahead here? Like, what is ahead here? And then normally, what do you think the answer would be?
My house.
Yeah. It's hard to buy a house here. But
not if you've got a Guardian Smith mortgage advisor.
there we go. And not if you're contributing to your KiwiSaver as well. So you want to get those sorts of sayings and figure out what does that mean to them versus to you? And is there any, validity to that?
Good word.
Yeah. And be careful, because so say it is hard to get ahead here, right? Which I get, I understand. I know where people are coming from.
It is, man.
Yeah.
Like, relative to the population, I'm doing well, and I'm like, fuck, it's tough.
Yeah.
Like, I can feel it.
Yeah.
It is pretty ruthless in New Zealand at the moment, right now, but it always has been.
So I believe that, right? Like, let's just put me into that profile. I believe that, and I want it to be the truth, and it is the truth. And I hear it from other people, so I'm hearing what I want to hear. So I have two decisions. I can put myself into a Facebook group, and the Facebook group is called "It's Hard to Get Ahead Here," and it's all people talking about how it's hard to get ahead here and why. Or there's a smaller Facebook group, and there's people in here that are talking about how to get ahead in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Which one would you rather be in?
Yeah, 100%.
You've got to get yourself out of the big one that's got the 400,000 people and get into the 40,000 people. Because in the 40,000
400.
Yeah, probably 4. There's in the 40,000 people group, 80% of them too still don't really believe it. They're in both. And they're like, nah. And they're looking at the 20 that are like, here's some things that work and going. Easy for you to say. Let's better throw around some tags, some profiles, privileged, et cetera, et cetera.
Couple of labels.
Yeah. Is that going to help? Is that going to help just being in the big Facebook group that's going to surround yourself with more shit to back up your worldview if that's not what you want to achieve? If you want it to be hard to get ahead here, then live like that and get over it. Stop saying that. Just accept that that is what it is. You could always leave. And we're seeing Kiwis leave, which I don't like. Part of why I enjoy doing this content is to try and almost stop people leaving and be like, okay, well, maybe, yes, I can see that you could make more in Australia, but you could fucking make more on the internet too, or you could make more in New Zealand. Here's some ways to do that. And if that stops you leaving, because it's all good and well for these people to leave, bounce to Australia, etc., they're probably going to come back and they'll bring back their skills and things, but they might come back at 64, 6 weeks before the pension starts, they qualify again or whatever the criteria is, and then...
Don't be silly, mate. There won't be any pension when we're 65.
So, we've got to sort of fight the tide at the same time, but individually we've got to be aware of where we are pocketing ourselves to hear what we want to hear rather than listening. And I was talking about this as an example recently, is this week, about how I got a really good lesson going from a small town to a city, from Dannevirke to Palmy, thinking I was pretty good at football, to then listening and finding out, no, mate, you will not be in the top team. You're not very good at this. And I'm like, whoa, are you fucking sure? Because I'm pretty good in Dannevirke. And they're like, well, they don't cut it over here. But, what I wanted to hear back in Dannevirke was like, oh, you're really good. And yeah, you can be in the rep team and shit. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm crushing it. And then I had to listen when I got to Palmy of, no, you're not good enough. So I got a very good life lesson there. But equally, then it taught me, okay, I still enjoy this, and if I want to get better, I don't actually need to hear like, oh, you're pretty good at this anymore. I need to hear from people how to get better. So I then had to become coachable, and then I would play in different football teams, and I would intently be like, okay, like, what do I need to do? I'm not as good as I thought I was, or then I might change position, so then I would need to be coached. And I think we learn it over there, but then we forget to take it back into our everyday life.
This is such a beautiful example, because you listen and then you've got choices to make, right? You could have just gone down the path of taking a hiding to nowhere, being like, nah, I'm the best, whatever. And then you just sit on the bench for the season, and season after season after season. And then you wake up at 65 and you've been on the bench for however long, right? Or you listen, and then you've got choices to make. You become coachable, and then you do some more seasons and see if you improve or whatever. Or you can change the vehicle. Like, there's various answers to this, right? You can be like, I did it. I was, fixing cars and managing rental car companies, and I was like, nah, I need to go find somewhere where the money printer is better. So I became a mortgage broker. You've basically got options after that, but if you don't listen, the outcome that you'll get will be sitting on the bench. And I just think there's actually quite a big portion of us that do it. I used to do it, man. I used to be like, nah, this can change. They'll sort that out. This will happen over there. Nah, you know, I'm going to vote this way and it'll get it fixed, and like all of this. I'm getting a bit of shit in the DMs at the moment about my hate for the state, eh?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, pushing a bit far.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But you were, it was bound to happen at some stage.
Yeah, it was coming.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just think that is such a good analogy, because it's so true, and it will happen to you. It's the same thing of like what you say, you can make money on the internet and stuff like that. But like that's no good to you if you've just finished your plumbing apprenticeship.
Yeah.
You know, like you do need to, and then you have to listen to the market. And is it your fault or is it the market? Because there's still a very big industry in plumbing.
Yeah.
So you're not making money because of something you're doing or not doing enough of. And you're listening to information all the time, whether it's from somebody's mouth, whether it's from a market, whether it's, you know, from Adrian Orr.
Yeah.
telling us in November 21 not to over leverage. But, you know, there really is. And I think it's such a beautiful skill to get the hang of. And you never stop getting better at it if you try and learn to listen. But you do get to a point where you can start automating a bit of your process around how you react to things.
Yeah.
And it's very helpful. It's been very helpful for me, and I think probably for you too.
Yeah, and I was just trying to figure out how have I gotten closer to understanding this. And I think what it is because I wanted to speed up my journey. So I learned if I go and ask people that have done things, then I could ask them. And all I had to do was then listen and do what they told me. And now I'm in the position where people come to me and they say, hey, what should I do? And I tell them exactly what they need to do. And they're like, oh, we're going to do this. Or like you said, start an Instagram. I'm like, no. I said on your Instagram that you already have, make an offer. Or on your Facebook page, go and make an offer. Don't just try and get Facebook bigger, for instance. So you've got to, so I learned to try and get better at them telling me what I needed to do. And even in the school rebates days, you know, I've got a video recently about me going around handing out flyers because that's what I knew and thought, oh, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And then a mate of mine was like, mate, like, you know, you can reach 500,000 people on Facebook by running an ad and I'll show you how to do it. And I'm like, oh, okay, really? And I had to listen. But then he's like, oh, you don't have any tracking. So if they go to your website, you can't retarget them. I'm like, tracking? And I'm like, well, this dude knows what he's talking about. He has results. Yeah. I should probably listen. I'm like, oh, nah, man, our website's cool, man. Don't worry about it, bro. Like it's, so sometimes I think it's because we put our ego in the way. So
because you listen, now that's like a huge part of your day-to-day business.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is crazy, right? Which definitely generates revenue for you.
Yeah.
So that little part of listening when you are out dropping flies. Imagine if Luke from Next Advisor was still out dropping flies every weekend.
Oh,
because you didn't listen.
Oh,
I'll be driving past in the Lambo with the door up, throwing shit at you.
That's what used to happen when I actually did deliver pamphlets on my BMX bike. People would drive into the puddle and it was wet.
Oh, man.
Soak me, man. I was biking around with all those bloody New World coupon books on my back. But yeah, there's so many examples of this. I think a really cool one, and I won't ruin it. There's a good series at the moment called Relentless, and it follows. It's basically
like a Netflix series.
No. I think it's TVNZ maybe, but it's Eugene Berryman and the City Kickboxing team, and they take people from around Australia and New Zealand. They put them into an 8-week training camp, and they say the end goal is fight, and the end result is one person gets a scholarship to join the team.
Ooh.
So they get 8 weeks of experiencing what the team's like. And I suggest for people, go and watch that if you are a bit of a watch something person. I think there's education in there. And look for the lessons. Don't just do it for the escapism. But there's a really cool moment in there where the person who wins says, basically, I'll paraphrase, but they knew that they could win their fight, but they said, but I knew I should show Eugene that I've been listening to what he wants to see from me, and that's how I fought.
Wow.
And Taz turned
to me
and she's like... That's
some critical thinking right there, eh?
Yeah, we didn't know who won at this stage, and Taz said to me, she's like, that person's probably going to win, eh? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah. And
you can tell, right?
Yeah, because they are the person who is going to be one of the people to decide who gets the scholarship is like, this is what I want to see from you. And instead of that person being like, nah, fuck it, I can beat this person anyway, I'll just do it the way that I do it. They're like, okay, end goal is scholarship. Action needs to be, listen, do what I'm told to do, not just do what I want to do. Not win the fight.
Yeah.
No. Demonstrate in the fight that you have you can practice and demonstrate that you can do what you've been learning over the last 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Outcome equals win.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think if we take it back to a coaching level for all of us, like go and seek out people that have answers and listen to what they're saying. And instead of trying to tell them like, no, this is like, oh, this is what I was thinking, and wanting to like rush to you getting into your piece, keep going deeper and be like, okay, and so why would we do it that way? And okay, how come that's something that's important, and in what stage should I do it, and things like that, and get curious. And that's where I think the listening becomes a bit easier, because it starts getting stepped out and you just remove all of your own already preconceived ideas of how it should be done or what you should be doing.
Yeah, this is a funny one, similar, but my own personal experiences. I remember being at school and in maths, and for, fifth form or whatever, maths was pretty basic. And then later on, because maths was like the only thing I really cared about, so later on I ended up like doing stats and calc and all that. But I remember at the time, it was basic enough for you to work out and problem solve in your head. So you'd get the tests and then I'd write the answer, because I'd work it out, and there'd be a bit of trial and error going on with the thing. Then you'd get the test back and the test would say the answer's correct, but you didn't show your working. We've taught you that you have to show your working. I'm like, how do I write down that I worked it out in my head? They're like, no. And you keep doing this, and eventually you get to like stats or calc or whatever, and you can't not write out your working because it's way too complicated and you have to do it to go and look through it. And it teaches you that process, which is hilarious, because at the time I hated it. I was just like, I know the answer. Let me write the answer. Isn't the answer what you want? No, listen, do it how we say, blah, 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 same as what things saying. Now, in my day-to-day life, part of the mortgage business is almost exactly like that. The banks want us to show our working of what we talked about with the client. The regulators, when they come in and audit us, they want to see like what you talked about with the client, how you handled the scenario, like what were the goals and objectives and what products you chose to be there. And we have to recall all that. The answer isn't just these people got a home anymore. So like I go back to like fifth form maths, and I'm like, thank you to the people that beat the shit out of me and like beat that into me, eh?
Yeah.
Because it's actually like half of the business revolves around it now. And it would be a lot harder if I just didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I didn't listen and didn't learn.
Shout out to Mikey's teachers who are listening, like, oh, he was
The
tough
original
work.
maths teacher was Mr. McBride, and we didn't get on too good, but I didn't get on good with any teachers.
I was about to say, are we surprised? Anyone surprised tuning in? Hey, recent example, mate, I posted something about if you make $100,000 a year in New Zealand, you are spending $490 a week on tax. Good question for all of us is, are we spending $490 on ourselves, or can we save $490 a week? Maybe that's the challenge. Can you we're investing that into the country. Can you invest that into your own investments? And because that's just something that I, looked at ages ago. I was like, wow, that's a kind of interesting, can I save $500 a week on $100K a year? Do I do that? Because I'm spending 500. There's definitely 500 going, or 490 to the government. And I get like, oh, great. So what about the nurses? And you don't care about the teachers. And I'm like, that's the sort of comments where I leave. I'm like, sorry, whereabouts does it say that? Or, so you think people shouldn't have to pay taxes? Like, oh, what sort of country would we have? And I'm like, where does it say that? Sorry. But they can't see the challenge.
Yeah.
So whatever they're consuming is then wanting them to hear more of this like anti-tax or whatever they think I am or am saying in this
Sorry
post.
about that, mate. That's probably a bit from me.
But what I'm saying is, here's a challenge to think about. Yeah, how much do you save and invest compared to what you save and invest into the country?
It is a hell of a challenge, no matter if the number is 100K or $1 million, whatever your income is, to put away more than the government takes.
Yeah.
That is it actually gets harder
Yeah.
as you go up, because once they start taking half.
Well, that's right. Like, say you are on 200K a year, right? And, well, let's just say 180K. Every dollar after that's taxed at 39%. So let's say 180 grand, you pay 50 something thousand in tax. So you're left
Like
with
122 left over after KiwiSaver.
Yeah, about 10 grand a month. Now, let's say you chew that up and
Yep.
then you decide, okay, now I want to start. That consumes your income. And I know people will be like, I can't relate to that because it's not where you are. But let's just, think about it hypothetically. And then you say, righto, now I need you to, you're going to make an extra $10,000, but you're going to get taxed at 39%. So you then have to stack aside $3,900 of that yourself as well. So let's just use round numbers, 4 grand to the government, 4 grand into your savings account. You're left with 2 grand off the 10 grand. And that the post is designed to get people thinking about what they pay in tax versus what they do save, to go as a bit of a kick up the ass. Yeah, shit, okay, what am I doing about my savings and stuff? Okay, I didn't realize I was spending that much on tax. But people who can't listen and look at it and see it for a bit of a challenge to get your brain going are like, oh, you're making anti-teachers and shit. Like, what are you talking about, mate? I'm funding more teachers than you are. I can guarantee you. Yeah, I'm paying 2 of their wages, and it's all good stuff. So, yeah, I think we all need to practice this, trying to listen. And like you said right at the start, even just with our partners and our friends and things, and not just being like itchy to tell our story and our thing that pops into our head when they're saying something.
Our bias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had to get a little bit better at this with clients, where I've now had to try and unwind what it is that they want to do and all these things. And I just always bring it back to them, like, what are you trying to achieve? Because then they have to stop. Yeah, then they have to stop and go like, oh, well, it's this, this, and this. I'm like, so why are we talking about this over here? And it's no different for an individual, because what we get in the DMs is, what bank account to use and what's the best savings account. And it's like, what are you trying to achieve? And sometimes people can't answer that. And it's, I want to start saving. Yeah. Well, start saving.
Yeah.
Draw the money out of an ATM and fucking start saving.
Yeah.
Then worry about don't spend the next 3 weeks finding the best bank account, the best savings account.
Yeah.
Because outcome is saving, person who saves. So action equals save.
Yeah.
So a really good way to do that is to go to your bank and say, could I please take money out of that account and stack it over there for a bit?
Yeah.
And yes, you will lose to inflation, but you're probably will in your savings account anyway. And then layer 2 is, okay, best bank account. But heads up, best bank account probably doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. So don't get caught in the weeds over there and hearing from, then you go on social media and you're searching for best New Zealand bank account, and you're down that rabbit hole for 2 years. Oh, this guy said that, and that lady said it was that one, and
we get
I'm
marketed
confused.
to from them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're chasing you down for it, making you believe that it matters. Like, the reality is the action, the habit matters.
Yeah, and listening to yourself, which is, I need to start saving.
Yeah.
Cool. It doesn't require the best bank account to do that.
Yeah.
It requires you to listen to that. That's the thing you need to do, and start saving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's so true. And I just think listening helps in so many areas, eh? And I think in general, we do it very poorly. Yeah. And I think if we don't listen and we don't be careful about how we react to certain things, then we end up in a country with too many speed bumps, roundabouts removed, all of this like crazy shit, cars driving themselves, people arguing over Seymour's lunches or some shit. Like we just end up in this place, which when we pull it apart, it's like none of the shit that's getting discussed here is going to help move everything forward.
Yeah.
And it starts at the micro level of like dealing with when me and you talk, down to like ourselves with our partners, into the people we work with in our businesses, with the staff, the other people, like day to day. It's just a huge skill that we really should put some emphasis on and making sure we get reasonable at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a very, very hard thing to get good at, but it goes back to when I was growing up, the old saying, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Think about that for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think it still holds true. And yeah, my final remark would be it's going to get harder to listen and to not take sides in things, especially as things get trickier. So the more we can strip ourselves back and get inquisitive of other people and their views and go, okay, so like, tell me a bit more about that, or like, why is it that you think that, or what's happening there? And that's a really good way to then unpack all of because the convo can get lost really quickly just talking about one person's opinion and then battling it rather than just going, okay, what's all that about? And tell me a bit more about that. And you can normally unwind it and then it makes sense. You're like, that's why they think like that, or that I can see why that's then important to them.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Maintain curiosity. Listen carefully.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
That's a goodie, mate. I've enjoyed that. The other myth that I had written down that sometimes we get in the DMs is that Luke thinks everyone should start a business.
Oh, yeah. Definitely don't do that. Like, the fucking odds on you succeeding in that are very bad.
Yeah. I don't think I can recall a time where I've said that everyone should. Maybe if I got way too excited and had a couple of Coronas in one of the earlier pods. But
I do think that the stats say that like 70% of businesses fail after the first 18 months or something. Like, it's wild stats.
Yeah.
And
I think it's a good example of how come, because people don't listen to the market. They hear what they want to hear. Oh, that knitted scarf you made me was so cool. Great, I'm going to start an Insta. I'm going to do a side hustle building knitting scarves.
Yeah.
Shit, no one wants them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And in business, it does teach you a lot about listening to the market and figuring out what do you want. I think actually this is the example that I've forgotten that I was thinking about whilst driving here, mate, is that I was told that to become a chartered accountant, it's quite a high thing in society, and it's very important, and there's a membership and you pay that annually. And what are you laughing at? And you're a part of an esteemed group of people, and it's very hard to get into this, and you should be very proud of yourself if you achieve that. And I did all of those things and I got it, and I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. And I looked up to these people and stuff. And then I went out into public practice where you look after people's accounts as an accountant. And I'd start taking sales calls and stuff. And I'm like, fuck, why does no one ask me if I'm a chartered accountant? So early marketing was, we're chartered accountants.
Yeah.
Because I thought that's what, the market wanted to hear. And I thought that, that's what I wanted to hear. I'd been told that you're really important, and people were like, "Oh shit, he's a gun. God, we'll just go to him." And then I learned
then you can't use it like that. You just actually have to use your knowledge and skill to get the work.
So then I would listen to people who would ring and say, "Can you help with XYZ?" And I'd say, "Yes, because I'm a chartered accountant." And I think I got them across the line because I'm a chartered accountant. Then I, come to accept that, oh shit, maybe I did get it wrong and I went too far that way, and people don't care as much as what I thought that they might. What they do care about is that I listen to them and I can tell them whether I can solve their problem or not. And if I say, I can help you with that, then I get to transact with them.
Yep.
And then I say, well, I'm going to have to get you to sign an official engagement letter because it's part of the CA rules, etc. They're like, oh, this letter looks, what is it? Yeah.
Why are you a CA? You're just
So, I think it's a good example of I've had to be mindful of this too, of not just hearing what I want to hear and thinking that I'm important because I'm a chartered accountant and things like that, and go, no, you know what? If people aren't asking that, well, it is what it is. The market is the market is the market, and that's where I compete. That's where I pay my rent and for my food and for my life. So I have to listen to what the market wants. And a favorite saying of mine is give the people what they want. And if they keep asking for something, then that is feedback for you to give them that, not just trying to give them something that you think
That's also why I know the money printer's coming again one day. Got to give the people what they want, man. Lower interest rates, sending at house prices.
You're a sicko. We'll save that for another pod. Thank you for tuning in. Please leave a 5-star review on the way out, or subscribe on YouTube if you are watching over there. Shout out to Generate, as always. They're supporting my vision to improve the financial literacy of 100,000 Kiwis by sponsoring Keep the Change. Cheers to them. If you do need to get your KiwiSaver reviewed, head to generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change and tell them that I sent you. See you in the next episode.